Thank you. Now, tonight we pay tribute to one of our best-loved actors. He's made nearly 100 films, but none of them could compare with the story of his own life. Born in a slum, he became an international film star and a Knight of the Realm. He's won 2 Oscars and a reputation which grows as he gets older. Now, in his 70th year, he shows no sign of relaxing, never mind stopping. His latest film, The Quiet American, is the work of an actor at the very height of his powers. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Michael Caine. You can safely assume you're among friends.
Yes, I am.
Sir Michael, I've not seen you since you got tapped on the shoulder by Her Majesty. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do people treat you differently now?
No, nobody treats me differently.
No, they?
No, they treat me like always the same, like dirt. That's it.
We're going to explore your story tonight, and I must say, if you want to put it in a capsule, so what encapsulates your life, which is an extraordinary story, is that you must be the only Knight of the Realm who once shared his bedroom with a haddock.
That's right. Yeah. My father was a Billingsgate fish market porter, and we lived in a prefab at the Elephant and Castle, and he used to steal fish for us, and he always stole too much to put in our little tiny fridge. It was a little fridge about that big. We used to buy half pints of milk because we couldn't get a pint in there. and he brought home some haddock one night, a lot of haddock. And he was a stickler for health. And so my brother and I slept in the same... It was only 2 bedrooms. My brother was 3 years younger than I. We slept in the same bedroom. And he always insisted that we sleep with the windows open for fresh air, you know. And so it was always freezing in the bedroom. So he used to keep the fish in the bedroom. And it used to be on the sideboard in the bedroom. And this night he put the smoked haddock in there. And what I didn't know is the smoked haddock is covered in phosphorus. And so in the middle of the night, I woke up to go to the toilet, and there was all this glowing at the end of the bed. I thought it was a ghost. It's a true story. If you put haddock in the dark, smoked haddock, if you have any, go and do it now. Turn the lights out, you'll see it glows, just like a ghost. And it's frightened the life out of me. And I stopped eating fish. I still don't eat fish.
I thought you were going to say not many people know that, Michael.
No.
Let's talk about this... I mean, you could never imagine, could you? I mean, Camberwell and then moving into prefab. From that point, you could never imagine, I suppose, ever being knighted. Well,
knighted? You didn't think of that? No. You don't even think of being a movie star. I was a big movie fan, massive movie fan. I used to go to the pictures 7 days a week. I used to see. There were always lots of films to see. Mind you, there was no television.
Yes.
You know? And so I grew up knowing about the cinema, but when I became an actor, the only reason I became an actor, well, it was several reasons, actually. 1, I couldn't do anything else. I was so stupid. 3, I wanted to meet beautiful girls. Oh, I missed 2, didn't I?
2 and 3.
I went straight... That was 2 and 3. Yeah, and I wanted to meet beautiful girls. And so... but the serious part of it is that I had never seen on screen in the British cinema anybody who really represented me. It was very rare. You had as a young working class man, someone working class on the screen to identify with. The first time I ever saw it was Johnny Mills in This Happy Breed, Noel Coward, who came from South London, from Clapham actually, and he played a sailor and he was a Cockney, and he wasn't a villain and he wasn't a caricature. He was a real person. Right. And I thought, Jesus, that's it, that's fantastic. Yes. And I thought, well, if I can just go on the screen and play a real working class person, it doesn't have to be big parts or anything, just get it right. This is how an ordinary working class person in England is. He's not a Cockney is not some grovelling guy with a cap going, yes, Gov, anything you like. It's a fair cop and all this bullshit. You know? He's a real person,
Yes, that's right. With a brain.
That was my idea.
That was your idea. Well, it worked.
Of course, I failed.
No, it worked very well, and the persona you created around that, like all great film stars, I mean, there's a lot of you in what you did in the movies, which is what's interesting about The Quiet American, your new film, is there's not an awful lot of you in there.
No, there's none of me, really.
Is there? I mean,
no,
it's wonderful. It's a marvellously moving performance, actually.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a thing that I was very fortunate to get a part this good when I was old enough to do it and then experienced enough to make the most of it to my abilities. I mean, there are obviously other actors who could have done it better, but I did it to the greatest of my abilities. When that film finished, I had nothing left. I just came home and sat there. And I said to my wife, I said, that's it. I just sat there and I didn't watch television. I just said, I've done it. You know, I don't want to do anything else at the moment, not for a week or so.
That's a long time for a layoff for you, mate.
Yeah,
a week.
yes.
When you look back at it, I mean, now are you satisfied with it? Now you've seen it back. I mean, are you happy with it?
Yeah.
And where do you put it in the canon of your work? Where do you think it is?
The best.
You think it's the best? I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a marvelous performance. You play Fowler, who was this journalist who stayed on in Saigon, hanging on in there, and he meets. It's Graham Greene's story, of course.
Yeah, Graham was an editor for Time in Vietnam at that time, in Saigon. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you met him too, didn't you? You met Graham Greene?
Yeah, because I did the honorary consul. And I was sitting in a restaurant, and he came over to me, and he's a very imposing figure. He was 6'5", and suddenly there's this man up there, and I said, yes. He said, Michael Caine. I said, yes. He said, I'm Graham Greene. And I knew what he thought of the film. I went, oh, shoot. Then he told me. And my food was cold by the time he finished.
Now, you're in your 70th year, as I said, which made you actually too old for this part, doesn't it?
Yeah, he was 55.
Yeah, that's right.
55. But what I did is I dyed my hair and got a lot of makeup and everything. And lost some weight and just put blue eye drops in and hope for the best.
But it works, you see. There's nothing incongruous about it. I mean, it has to work because you have, part of the film is a relationship you have with this beautiful girl, this 20-year-old Vietnamese girl.
Yes.
What's her name? Who?
Do Hai Yen.
Do Hai Yen.
Yeah.
God,
yeah.
she's gorgeous, isn't she?
She's really gorgeous, yeah. But when I first saw her, we were in rehearsal, and she walked in, she had no makeup on, and she didn't speak English, for Pete's sake, you know, so we couldn't. And she looked about 12. And she was so small, I felt like a building. But she and Philip Noyce worked together, the director. I mean, he got a performance out of it, and I must say, Hyen worked like really, really, really hard. By the end of the movie, she spoke very good English.
Yes.
And that's only 12 weeks.
Yes.
She was incredible, I thought.
Well, we got a scene here which features you and Brendan Fraser, who plays Pyle, the American, the quiet American. And it's a scene where he comes to propose to your girlfriend, having already confessed to you that he's in love with her.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look at this.
Fire away.
Fool. Ever since I met you, and danced with you, and talked with you, I haven't been able to get you out of my thoughts for more than a moment. And I've fallen in love with you.
You fall in love with me?
Please believe me when I say I've never behaved like this before. I apologize. It is abrupt and it is ill-mannered, but I'm in love with you.
Shouldn't you be on one knee?
Look, well, I'm not a rich man, but I do have assets.
Let's toss for her.
What can you offer her?
Oh, Christ.
Listen, I don't expect you to love me right away. That'll come with time.
Yes, you can always make love to the chauffeur while he's at the office.
You have no right to insult her.
Will you shut your bloody dog
You
up?
can come away with me right now.
Tell him to bugger off and take his dog with him.
Brendan is marvellous in this picture
He is.
because you've never seen a Brendan Fraser like he is in this film.
No, that's right.
He's,
The way
he's
he
really great.
turns. Yeah, he really is. And there are some very tender scenes between you and the girl as well. Do you enjoy doing love scenes?
No, I never did.
Do you?
No, they're very awkward to do.
Are they?
And I know everyone says, "Oh yeah, I bet it's awkward." You know what I mean? But it's really, and this is particularly awkward in as much as a difference in age. You know, it could have gone wrong.
Are you embarrassed about them, or what? Is that the?
Well, no. I mean, I remember we used to do love scenes where, they're always artificial. Either the girl is topless, right, and her boobs are out, and no one's looking at you; they're looking at their tits. Right? Or else it's completely artificial, and the sheet's like an L-shaped sheet. And it comes up here on the guy and comes up to there on her. And it's got this thing like that. And she's moving about in the bed with a man she's been married to for 20 years, trying to hide her bosom. From who?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
150 technicians, that's who.
Have you ever got carried away, though? Go on, Michael, you can tell me. I'm an old mate. Go on.
No, not until the end of picture party. No, you never have a romance during the movie.
No.
Yeah, because that way the man always comes off worst. I've seen it a dozen times. You'll see an actor in a movie. You'll say, "Oh, he wasn't very good in that. I love that actor, and he was really a good actor, but he was sort of subdued. That means he's screwing the leading lady." It's true. I could mention, but I'm not going to. No. I don't want to get sued by two parties.
What about the location there? You shot that in Saigon, didn't you?
Yeah, we shot it in Saigon, which is now known as Ho Chi Minh City. Ho Chi Minh was the leader of the Viet Cong, who retook his land. And we shot it in Hanoi, and a place called Hoi An.
Were they welcoming?
Lovely. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, they're absolutely smashing. They're such nice people. It's quite amazing, you know. And I used to look at them and think, "You're all Viet Cong." And what you do with soldiers, it did the same with me in Korea when I was young. I was in Korea when I was 19 with the Americans, and you dehumanize the enemy. Like there was called the Charlie. They were just called Charlie, the Viet Cong. In China. In Korea, we were against the Chinese army, and the Chinese were known as gooks. And you always get some word for them which dehumanizes them. You know, you don't want to kill a Chinese man, but you can kill a gook. And that's how they work on your psychology. Yeah.
You were an active soldier, weren't you, in Korea? A national serviceman, but you were...
I was a national serviceman, yeah. I was an infantryman.
An infantryman, a beetle
crusher.
crusher.
They tried to get rid of me.
Yeah. What kind of action did you see?
Mostly patrol action. It was like the First World War. Trenches on either side, and then in the middle there's no man's land, which each side tries to control at night. You know, so what you get is bombardments all day long, and then if you're not lucky, you get sent out in the middle to control no man's land. I was not very good at that.
Well,
I never controlled a great deal of no man's land.
I mean, the problem that you face there, which not many people have to face, thank God, in their lifetime, is it's a question of your own fear, your own courage, isn't it?
You have to come to terms with that. For me, it was rather like an initiation, like in, say, in the Maasai. You know, they give you a short spear and say, "Go and kill a lion," to prove you're a man. And to me, if you think. Every man, I'm sure, every person, you think, if I was in a dangerous situation, would I burst into tears or would I run away? Would I be a coward and shame myself? And it's a very important thing as a young man I accidentally happened to me in Korea when we got to a position, it was 4 of us. There's always little patrols go out, reconnaissance. I mean, give me a break. But we got out there. It was an officer and a corporal and another soldier and me. And we got out there and then we could hear all the voices, and we knew we were surrounded. And then the Chinese always called at you, shouted at you, stuff. You know, you want to go home and all that stuff. And it's very eerie in the middle of the night. You know, I mean, you literally pee yourself with fear.
Sure.
But we just sat there, the 4 of us, and we all went, "What are we going to do?" And we all 4 of us said, "We'll die expensive." And we were going to die expensive. And we decided, we charged. We knew we were going to die. I mean, there must have been 100 of them. And we charged. And we charged the wrong way. It's true. It's true. I mean, there's the 4 of us, silly sods, charging through. It's rice paddies we're on, rice paddies. Charging through, and we charged them to surprise them towards their lines. What we didn't know, they'd all gone round the back behind us to stop us getting back to our lines. You know what I mean? And we just kept running and running. I mean, we ran all night. I mean, we just ran and ran and ran, and we kept running. And then when we realised we were going towards them, we took a left turn. Let's run over there. We run anywhere. And this is the story of my bravery as an infantryman. I did the first 4-minute mile. And there was no one to see or record it. But when I got back, I realised that what I'd done, I said, I'm going to die dear. I'll die expensive. And we were ready to kill as many of those sons of bitches before we died. We really were. All 4 of us. And we're all, each one was dumber than the other one. The officer was bloody stupid. You know, because he said to us, I'll give all of you a £5 if we go up the line, the Chinese line, and take a prisoner. I said, a fight? What are you insane? Are you? I said, I'm already a mug enough. I said, I'm out here fighting against communism for capitalism, and I'm being paid £4 a day. I said... I said no, so we never went.
But nonetheless, I mean, did you find it a valuable experience?
Oh, it's an extremely valuable experience, because I knew then that any situation in my life, you go against me, it's going to be dear. You may win, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you, I don't care what it is, anything.
And I suppose that something like that, as an actor, you draw on all that, don't you?
Oh, my God, yeah. Oh, it's incredible, the things you can draw on. You know, you can draw on abject terror, for a start. I know how to do abject terror. And I tell you what I do know, which is in the film, how to do shot horror.
What do you mean when
there's a shot in the film of me
when the bomb goes off?
When the bomb goes off, and I start to look around.
Yeah. That
comes straight from the first time I saw bombardment results in Korea. Comes straight from that.
That's interesting.
Because Stanislavski, which is what... that doesn't mean you all mumble and scratch your armpits like Marlon Brando. Stanislavski is sense memory, right? Sense memory. You go back to something in your real life to do... I mean, like, I can burst into tears at a drop of a hat. I just go to one place in my life, which I won't mention, but I go to one place in my life and I'm bang, gone.
You're doing it now, aren't you?
I nearly went then.
Because
no, I did. I thought of it.
Yeah,
I thought of it. You see, you can't do it. You can't mess about with those things. It's like the tools. It's like a surgeon's knife. You know, if I tell it, I'll blunt the scalpel.
Yes.
You know, and then the next time I do an operation,
it won't be there.
It won't be right.
Fascinating. I was going to ask you about that later on, about the technique of film acting. But in the meantime, then, all right, so therefore, you've been in the army, and so therefore the part that actually brought you to attention, you made films before,
yes.
But the part that really made your name was Zulu, wasn't
yes.
it? Yeah,
Zulu.
And there, of course, against type, you played the top, didn't you? You played the officer.
I played the officer, yeah, and everybody thought I was like that, everyone was so shocked when they met me, this Cockney guy had played this toffee-nosed git, you know. and I based him on several officers that I knew. And I also used to have lunch every week in the officers' mess of the Coldstream Guards. And I knew how officers behaved with privates, because I had that relationship, which was abominably, right? But I didn't know how they behaved with each other. And Stanley Baker and I were playing fellow officers. So I had to get that way of doing it. Right. So that's why I used to go to the officers' mess and just observe how they treated each other, which was very, very well indeed. Let's kept passing each other the port and all that.
Let's be reminded of that meeting, in fact, on the film, between you and Stanley Baker.
Yes.
Famous scene. So look here.
Hot work?
Damn hot work.
Bill, the river cooled you off a bit, though, eh? Who are you?
John Chard, Royal Engineers.
Bromhead. 24. That's my post. Up there. You've come down from the column?
That's right. They want a bridge across the river.
Who said you could use my men?
They were sitting around on their backsides doing nothing.
Rather you asked first, old boy.
I was told their officer was out hunting.
Yes. I'll tell my man to clean your kit.
Don't bother.
No bother. Not offering to clean it myself. Still, a chap ought to look smart in front of the men. Don't you think? Well, Chin Chin, do carry on with your mud pie.
You sat in the saddle, tall in the saddle, up to the manor born.
Oh, yeah, I fell off. The first shot, I fell off, and the sun was setting. It was a long shot. And Cy Enfield, there was an assistant with me. He said, oh, the silly sod's fallen off. Oh, God. And then he said, I heard him over the intercom. He said to the assistant, he said, well, he's hurt his back. He said, leave him there. Take his hat and cloak and get on the horse. So the first shot of me and my movie stardom is, in actual fact, the third assistant director in my hat and cloak. And that cheetah you saw was my cheetah. I had to, in order to work with him, I used to walk around with him on a leash all the time. It was a allegedly tame cheetah.
Yeah.
We had, the catering guy had a German Shepherd dog, right? And this cheetah, I had on a chain. He saw the German Shepherd dog outside the canteen, and he ripped off. He went straight. The German Shepherd went into the canteen, and I swear to you, he shut the door. I'd never seen. I think what must have happened is, as he went in his panic, he must have hit the door and it bounced and shut. He looked like he'd gone in with, oh Christ! And then you see that pussycat out there.
I mean, that of course started you off on the road to stardom. Let's talk a little bit about Mum and Dad now, because Dad missed out, didn't he, in a sense? He
Yeah,
died,
my father died of cancer when I was in a real state. I was out of work. I just got separated from my wife. My marriage was a disaster, my first wife. I had a little baby, it must have been about a year or 18 months. And the whole thing, you know, there are periods, it doesn't rain, it pours, you know? And it was incredible. It's just one thing after the other. I couldn't believe it, you know? And it was very strange, because I just did a picture called Last Orders, in which I die of cancer in St. Thomas's Hospital. And if you see it, I'm very good, because my father died of cancer in St. Thomas's Hospital, and I just copied his death. That's sense memory, carried to an extreme. You don't normally want to do it, believe me.
I'll bet.
But that is one of the extremes of sense memory that I've used.
Yes. You nursed your dad, didn't you?
Pardon?
You nursed him.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But, you know, it was quite fast, 5 weeks.
Yes.
From sort of lumbago. We were rubbing him with lumbago, and it turned out to be cancer of the liver, which, of course, could be cured now, but then it couldn't. Yes. No.
Yes. Do you get a sense now of unfinished business with him, in a sense, because he died?
Yeah, it was very strange, because my father was a massive gambler, really terrible horse race gambler. And after I finished a couple of pictures and I had some money, I bought a house at Windsor next to the racetrack. And after I bought it, it was right next to Windsor racetrack, they said, you do realise that there's a deed that goes with the house where you have your own gate through to the racetrack free. And I went and found this little gate, and I thought, that's there for my dad. There was another deed in the one where the Queen had the right to go through the back road of my property. True, she did. I used to see her. She'd come through in a Land Rover, because she used to go to the races there. And there was this road at the back, and you'd go out and there'd be the Queen going through in a Land Rover. It's a true story. You can't make this stuff up. I'm not that clever to make this stuff up. And she'd say, hello, Mr. Caine, how are you? I'd say, very well, ma'am. Doff my hat, yeah. Grovel a bit. I hope we get a knighthood one day.
That's where it started. Oh, that's how you do it.
That's how I do it.
That's how you do it.
My secret's out now. She came through my garden.
And what about Mum in all this too? Because she was a remarkable girl. Now she lived to see your success.
Yeah.
In fact, she had the fruits of your success because you bought her a house.
Yeah. She got everything that she needed eventually. But I mean, she was a child lady, and it's very funny because her forewoman in the child lady business was Mrs. Nellams.
Oh.
You see, and Mrs. Nellams, and my mother's name was Mrs. Micklewhite. And they're both talking to each other, and we were both famous, but our mothers wouldn't give up the jobs, you know? And I was begging my mother to give up child lady because, you know, I was already a millionaire. My mother's cleaning floors. I'm saying, for Christ's sake, give it up. She said, I'll have nowhere to go in the morning. So Mrs. Nellams and Mrs. Micklewhite, my mother, are talking, and Mrs. Nellams said, my son's a famous rock and roll singer. And my mum said, oh, really? My mum said, my son's a famous actor. And Mrs. Nellams said, what's his name? She said, Maurice Micklewhite. So I never heard of him. So my mother says, what's your rock and roll son's name? She said, Terry Nellams. So my mother came home, she said, you ever heard of a rock and roll singer called Terry Nellams? I said, yeah. I said, it's not his real name. That's his real name. She said, who is it? I said, Adam Faith. Adam Faith's mother was my forewoman. My mother's forelady in the cleaning. That's the two of us, Terry Nellams and Maurice Micklewhite. I said, Mum, you're nuts. But she was very funny. I'll tell you funny, when in the 60s, she said, what's all this about miniskirts and all this? She said, what's going on? I said, have you seen a miniskirt? She said, no, what's it? So I said, Saturday, I'll take you down to King's Road. And we walked down to King's Road. I said, here's one, it's the first one. Here's one now. And this girl walked along with a mini up to here, you know. So she goes by, and my mother looks at her. So we walk on a bit, and she never said a word. So I said, well, what do you think, Mum? She said, if it's not for sale, you shouldn't put it in the window.
The other extraordinary, I said in my introduction that your life story is just, I mean, a scriptwriter couldn't invent it, and if they did, they'd think it was greatly exaggerated. Because it wasn't until your mum died that you discovered you've got a brother, another brother.
Yeah, she had an illegitimate child before she married my father. And what happened was that a newspaper was doing an article on the state of mental health establishments in England. And unbeknownst to me, my half-brother, he had what they used to call in there, another lady who was a bit more bright than him. You couldn't understand what he said, but you could understand what she said. But she was his, like, girlfriend. And the man who I think it was from the newspaper, got together a group of them who were a bit more lucid, the more brighter ones, among which was my brother's girlfriend. And he was talking to them. Now, unbeknownst to me, my mother had visited him every Monday, with the exception of the war, for 50 years. Always on a Monday. She'd go shopping Monday afternoon. She always came back with just a couple of things which she grabbed, you know? And she visited him for 50 years. And she always had, this was later told to me, my mother was dead by the time I found out this. She was gone. She'd 2 or 3 years. And then the matron at the hospital, I said, well, how did this all keep quiet? I mean, the nurses never said it came out in this newspaper. So she said, well, your mother used to bring a Bible. And every new nurse had to swear on the Bible that she wouldn't tell anyone that this was Michael's brother. Because he had a picture of me, she gave him a picture of me on the wall in Zulu, on that horse. It was on the wall, so he knew who I was when he saw the television. And then what happened is the newspaper reporters talking to all these inmates, you know, the brighter ones who could get some lucid answers from. And his girlfriend said to the reporter, said, you see that man over there? And he said, yes. She said, that's Michael Caine's brother. Of course, his ears went, what? And then it came out in the paper. And I read it in the paper. No, the editor called me. He said, I'm going to print this on Sunday. And they were very good at it. He said, I'm going to print this, Mike. I think you should know. You've got a brother. And I said, it's preposterous. He said, no. He said, no.
What were your feelings?
Well, I wanted to go and see him. I wanted to see if he was all right.
Yeah,
I went and saw him. And I got, you know, I was very rich then, and all this stuff. And the most amazing thing was, the name of the asylum was Caine Hill. And it's just the other side of Streatham, somewhere. Because he wasn't in there then, he'd been moved to a better place by the time I found him. And but then he died about 18 months after I got to know him. But I went and saw him, and I had these long conversations with the nurse, because I couldn't understand what he said. What had happened is he'd suffered from epilepsy when he was young, and in those days, they used to lock him in a cellar with a stone floor, and of course he'd bouncing about on there. He's probably quite intelligent, but you know, he bashed himself into bloody brain abnormality. And she gave him to the Salvation Army, and they looked after him until they figured he was old enough to show epilepsy. Oh, God knows when that is, I don't know. But there was this incredible story, you know.
It's remarkable. Did your dad know about it?
No.
He didn't know either?
Oh, no, he'd have killed her. My father. Oh, if he'd have known. Oh.
What were your feelings about your mum when this came out? I mean, did you feel sorry she not confided in you?
I felt absolute amazement. Absolute amazement how she fooled us all for 50 years. Every Monday. And when she used to come to the country on a Sunday, you know, and my driver always told me I had to drive with a Rolls Royce, take my mum back to London, you know. And he said to me one day, he said, she always gets out at the bus stop on Streatham High Road. And her house was round the back by the park, the Streatham Common. And the penny never dropped. She was catching the bus to the asylum straight out of the Rolls Royce. And she always used to go round, and you know, there's always plenty of stuff. She'd go around and pick up all the chocolates, candy, cakes, anything, ice cream and everything. And whenever I went to see her, there was never anything in the fridge. I thought, where's she put all this stuff? She can't be eating it, it's too much. She was giving it to him. It's amazing.
And I suppose at the time she was born in Victorian times, was she, your mother?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that would be...
My mother was born in 1900.
So
it was beyond the pale to have an illegitimate child.
Isn't it awful that certain circumstance of the time dictated that she kept that terrible secret that she thought it?
Some of the most successful people I know are bastards.
Let's look at the movie
Hard
now.
to get a laugh at the end of that story, wasn't it?
I was just thinking that was absolutely brilliant. Because I didn't know I was going to get into this next clip. You did, Michael.
And then I appeared in...
I read somewhere that you said that of all the films that you made, one of the most enjoyable films that you made was A Man Who Would Be King.
Yes.
You enjoyed that, didn't you?
Yeah. It's because of my relationship with Sean and John Huston, the director.
That's right.
We had a wonderful time on that. And Sean is one of my closest friends anyway, and was before that. He came into business. They were doing South Pacific, and they wanted all these men to sing, there's nothing, you know, sailors, there's nothing like a dame, nothing. And they got all these chorus boys to come round and audition, you know, the Americans. And they're going, there's nothing like a dame. And he said, Jesus. Josh Logan sitting there going, it's not very convincing, I'm afraid. And he sent, this is a true story.
Oh, sure.
And he sent his talent scouts around all the gyms, gymnasiums, to get some, you know, big brawny guys to put up the front as American sailors. And Sean was Mr. Edinburgh. He was Mr. Edinburgh, and he was like Arnold Schwarzenegger. There was all this. And they put him in it, and that's how he started. The first Saturday of that show, I went to a party, and that's where I met Sean. And that was that time.
Well, of course, there's another film, or this scene particularly, that shows off your skills as a national serviceman, as a soldier. Because this is that lovely scene where the two of you march in to be bollocked by the district officer. Yeah. Here we are. Nice scene, this.
Right. Turn. Halt. Hats off.
You men are not under arrest. Thanks to Mr. Kipling here, who happens to be a genuine correspondent for the Northern Star. But both of you richly deserve to be in jail. I have your records before me. There's everything in them, from smuggling to swindling to receiving stolen goods to barefaced blackmail.
Sir, I resent the accusation of blackmail.
It is blackmail to obtain money by threats of publishing information in a newspaper. But what blackmail is there in accepting a small retainer for keeping it out of a newspaper?
And how did you propose to keep it out?
By telling the editor what I know about his sister and a certain government official in these parts.
Let him put that in his paper if he has need of news.
It would have been wiser if you had both gone home at the end of your army service.
Home to what? A porter's uniform outside a restaurant and tanner tips from belching civilians for closing cab doors on them and their blousy women?
Not for us, thank you. Not after watching Afghans come howling down out of the hills and taking battlefield command when all the officers had copped it.
Well said, Brother Travitt.
There may be no criminal charges against you, but I'll see these files reach Calcutta with the recommendation that you be deported as political undesirables. Detriments to the dignity of the Empire and the Izzat of the Raj.
Detriments, you call us? Detriments? Well, I want to remind you it was detriments like us that built this bloody empire and the Izzat of the bloody Raj. Hands on. About turn. Finally, quick, smart.
I watched that film the other day for the first time in a long time,
Yeah.
and it's such a hugely good-natured film, isn't it?
It is, yeah,
It's a really sort of feel-good film.
Yeah, we made that up on that wasn't in the script.
Oh, that scene?
Sean and I did that. It was like being marched in on orders in the army.
Yeah.
You know, because when we marched in, he says you're not under arrest.
Yes.
Because we were marched in as though we were under arrest.
Yes.
Which, of course, when I was in the army, I have done many times. So I knew how to do that, and so did Sean.
Yes.
Because he was in the Navy for about 10 minutes. With Sean, I go back. The last time I was in the queue for the doll, right? Sean was 2 in front of me. He was.
Did you know?
He always got there early. He's a Scotsman.
Oh, dear. Well, you obviously got on very well, and you had a great time, didn't you? I mean, both on the set and off the set in Morocco.
Yeah, oh, yeah. We were in a place called Ouarzazate, which is on the edge of the Sahara. And there was they said, there's a disco here. We said, oh, really? It's a disco? Oh, well, that'd be fun. So we went to this disco, and it was all guys dancing with each other. Not because they were gay, but because the women are not allowed to go out. It's a very Islamic area, the Sahara, believe me. And so we thought, who should we dance with then? And then our chauffeur said, well, you dance with us. So we were dancing with our chauffeurs.
As you do.
As one does.
Yeah.
And Sean's chauffeur, that's quite difficult to say. It's a good job I didn't have a drink before. Sean's chauffeur was quite nice looking. But mine was really ugly. So I said to Sean, shouldn't they be outside with the cars? So I said, yeah, you never know. I said, send them out. So I said, well, you want to dance? So we danced together. It's funny. I mean, the stupid things that happen they're always,
Locations.
you find yourself in these situations and you think, I can't tell this back home. No one's going to believe me. You know, and it was all like seductive and all the lights. And the men weren't gay. None of the men were, well, I don't know whether they were gay. They wore long robes.
You couldn't tell.
Couldn't tell down there.
No. But I suppose locations vary, don't they? There's some lousy ones and some good ones. What's the worst location?
The Philippine jungle. I did 16 weeks there in the Philippine jungle. And that was scary because they used to have what they called a twig snake. And of course, you know, Muggins me, I said, what's a twig snake? He said, well, it looks just like a twig. You can't tell. You know, in the jungle, there's quite a lot of twigs. And so, how are we going to get in the jungle? He said, you wait and see. And they brought these little native men in loincloths out, and they could smell these snakes. And they went through, just pushing the way for our path, going through, smelling the bloody snakes. And I said, supposing one of them's got a cold.
What about movies as well? I mean, you've made some marvellous movies, you've made some bad movies, you've made a lot of movies. I mean, that's what happens. What's the worst film you think you've ever made?
The Swarm. Yeah. It was about a plague of bees. Killer bees from Brazil. And they they screwed up the special effects. I mean, you know, I was doing acting against a blue screen. But we did have 1.5 million bees, which we worked with, right? But they'd had these immigrants sitting in bloody laboratories taking the stings out one by one. It's true. It's a million. And every now and then you hear someone on the set go, ow! And you go, there's a hot one, they miss one. but the first time they let them out, the first time we were like all scientists and everything. I mean, Hank Fonda and Dick Widmark, I mean, I'm not there with a load of Carl Morden, I'm not there with a load of morons. Yeah. They all did it. But then I got the blame. And we're there in the white overalls, and then they let the million bees out. Now, what we didn't know is bees do not relieve themselves in their own habitation. They wait to get outside. Now, bee poop is very small, obviously. But if you get 1 million of them... and we're looking there, and there's a sort of thin haze of brown over there. I always saw it as a foretaste of what the critics were going to do to us. And they did.
Oh. It's a strange business, isn't it, that you're in. I mean, all these extraordinary situations you find yourself in. And the other thing, too, about you, your career, is that very much it's like an old-fashioned star's career, isn't it, when the old studio system...
I treated myself like a studio.
You did?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you did all the movies that came your way.
Because I grew up in that system, you see. I knew how the bosses treat you, you know, and they gave you had a contract, you had to do that and do that and do that. And then you got loads of experience.
That's exactly.
And that's what happened to me. I did load. I don't know if some of them were crap, but I needed the money as well.
Yes.
Because if you make a success and make money, and you come from a wealthy family, you don't have to give anyone anything. You understand? I had to buy everyone a house. The Swarm was my mum's house, and it was great. You know, the picture was crap, but the house was great. The house was great.
What about the iconic Michael Caine? You know, the man beloved of the people who do impressions, and the man who... I mean, one of my sons, Michael, I mean, he always does that scene from The Italian Job where, you know, he says, I want him to blow the bloody doors off. I mean, where did that come from? The voice, for instance, when you... Did you find a voice?
Someone asked me about that, so you're sort of iconic and all that. I said, it's not iconic, it's we're back to where I started. When I was looking for someone in the movies to identify with, there wasn't anybody. It was Americans, right? Not American movie stars, but they working class, Jimmy Cagney, Humphrey Bogart and all that. I just represent, I mean, Englishmen on the screen were always sort of, they were either sissies, neurotic, gay, effeminate, afraid of women, having nervous breakdowns, everything. They were always absolutely fallible, especially where women were concerned. Now, I came on, I was Alfie, right? So that's all the women taken care of. The Italian Job, we won the football and got the gold, even though we lost it in the end, right? And Carter, anybody said you get your nose pushed down your throat, you know? So there were the three iconic things for a young man to look at. You had an Englishman who, on the screen, was all those things. Off the screen, I'm not any of those things. I'm not very tough at all. And so I think that's what young men see, is an Englishman who represents that.
Let's see that iconic moment that I was talking about from The Italian Job.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
You never said, did you? Not many people know that. I mean,
no. Peter Sellers said that.
Did he?
Peter Sellers, yeah, because I'm always full of information and facts. You know, if you mention something, I said, you know, and he was the first. Peter always had the new gadgets, right?
Yes.
So he was the first one to have an answer machine. I called him one day, he wasn't in, and there was me saying, my name is Michael Caine. I just want you to know that Peter Sellers is not in. Not many people know that. He invented that, not many people know that. Yeah. And then everyone who rang him, they got me saying, not many people know that.
Let's talk a bit more about the film career. I mean, you mentioned one or two people you worked with. You worked with some giants. Lord Olivier. I mean, you worked with him, didn't you?
Yes.
What kind of an experience was that?
it was fascinating, and we became great friends. But Larry was the great man of the theatre, you know what I mean? And in the theatre, everybody's there to get the great man's performance. You're just there, it's all sort of grovelling and everything. And we started the film together, and after about a week, he said, I thought, Michael, I had a servant in you. I see I have a partner.
Oh, really?
I said, yes, Larry, you do. You have a partner. I said, I think you're the greatest actor in the world, and you're a much better actor than me, but you are going to have to go as hard as you can, because I am never going to let you off, and I'm never going to let you down. I will go everywhere you go with you. I said, and I know my position, but I'm not succumbing to it. And we became tremendous friends, tremendous friends.
I don't suppose there was much he could teach you, was there, in the sense, because...
Not about the movies, because he was a stage actor.
Exactly, that's precisely my point, because you're a screen actor, and he wasn't that.
He had some lovely stories. He told me once, when they dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima, he said, he was working for Sam Goldwyn. And Sam Goldwyn didn't have a great command of the English language. And it was great headlines, an entire city wiped out by one bomb. And Sam called Larry up to the office, and he had this Los Angeles Times, one bomb, Hiroshima, gone. And he said to Larry, Larry, that atom bomb is dynamite.
Yes, the Goldenisms, yes.
Yeah, the Goldenisms. Yeah. Joe Mankiewicz, who directed that picture, he wrote a lot of pictures for Sam, and he did a rewrite once, and Sam said to him, Golden had a voice like this. And he said, Joe, he said, it's great. He said, now the script has warmth and charmth.
You wonder how many of them are made up, of course, like stories about somebody else that you worked with, of course, Noel Coward.
Oh, Noel was funny.
Yeah.
Noel was funny. At that time, there was a Vietnam thing going on, and Vanessa Redgrave, who was like Trotskyist and all that stuff, was leading anti-American demonstrations against the war, as a lot of other people were. I used to go every Wednesday night with Noel and have the most English thing I ever did. I used to go and have dinner with Noel in the Savoy Grill every Wednesday night, and anybody else who happened to be around. And then one day, and they used to do Vanessa used to do these sit-down demonstrations outside the American embassy. And one day, in the grill, Vanessa came in. And Vanessa's about 6'1", And I said to Noel, it's Vanessa Redgrave over there, look. She said, Jesse said, she's very tall. She says, good job, she's a communist, gives her lots of opportunity to sit down.
And Woody Allen, too, was somebody else that you worked with. That had a significant effect on your career in the sense that the film that you made, Hannah and Her Sisters, that was the first time you were recognised by the Academy.
I won the first Oscar for that, for Hannah and Her Sisters.
Yeah. What's Alan like to work with as a director? Does he give you much or not?
Woody, like all comedy writers, never says anything funny. Yes. He's listening to you.
Yes.
And all those comedy writers, they have a pencil and a piece of paper. If you say something funny, they go to the toilet and write it down.
Let's be reminded of the film. There's a nice scene here from Hannah and Her Sisters. It's all right, we're just a bit slow out the box tonight.
My name is Michael Caine. Not many people know that. So I was walking down the street. I begin to sound like Dudley Moore, eh?
You do, actually, you do.
Oh, Pete, I said, all right. That Bridget Bardot came last yesterday. Bloody cow, I threw her out.
I think we'll keep that bit in, shall we? And now we'll go to Hannah and Her Sisters.
She answers. I'll hang up. I'll tell her we can't communicate until I terminate my marriage. It's immoral. Then time will pass, I won't call, and she'll get the idea. I've got to stop this before I get in too deep. I'd rather hurt Lee a little than destroy Hannah. It's 1:30. She can't have a conversation with me, with him around. I'm getting hysterical. I'll call her first thing in the morning. I'll call her at 6. Frederick goes jogging,
At 6, she'll be alone. I'll call her and nip it in the bud.
Oh! I've got it! Hello? Mel!
I would have hung up if you hadn't answered, and I promise I won't ever do this again, but I just had to tell you. I feel very close to you tonight. Very, very close. Good night.
You see in that scene, that's typical of Woody as a filmmaker. I moved out and backwards and forwards. He never moved the camera. The camera stayed absolutely still.
That's right.
Yeah. And he said, I said, why is that? He said, because you're talking to yourself. That's very hard to pull off. He said, so if you talk sometimes out of the camera and then come back in, it will look more realistic.
Yeah.
Because, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing he does with you as direction.
Yes. And of course, you were working with his wife there, weren't you?
That was the most personal film I've ever been on, because our flat, there's Mia Farrow, her children, including Sun Yi, were our children, and we were in her flat, and then we shot a love scene in her bed. Now, I'm in her bed, in her flat with Mia Farrow, being directed by her lover, husband, you know, which is awkward enough. And I looked up, and there's Andre Previn, her ex-husband. And he'd come to see his kids. And Woody said, action. And I said, what's the next line? I couldn't think, I thought, bloody hell.
Does the Oscar make a difference?
Yes.
Does it?
Yeah.
I mean, not just to yourself, to your own pride and fulfillment. Does it make a difference to you as an actor, to the kind of parts you get and things?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Oscar for Cider House Rules brought about a situation for me where The Quiet American happened. Because I was then, bang, several things happened, you know? Philip Noyce had a hit and everything, and it all came about, and that's how it got financed.
Yes.
You know?
So that means it means better parts and
better parts. Yeah. Oh,
so,
yeah.
But what about the future, though? I mean, as I said, you're in your 70th year now.
The future. Well, at the moment, I'm doing a picture. It may not look like it, but I'm doing a picture in Austin, Texas, with Robert Duvall and Haley Joel Osment, the little boy from Sixth Sense, who is now 14. He's not so little anymore. And then I'm going to do a picture. I have, yeah, I've got stuff. You see, I don't have to work, obviously, but I love to work, but I don't want to do crap. So I sit there. I will sit, like, I sat for 2 years. I didn't get a script I wanted to do. And then I got Blood and Wine, which I did with Jack Nicholson and Bob Rafelson, you know, and I did that. Then I sat and I got Little Voice, and I sat and I got Cider House Rules, and then I sat and I got Quiet American. I sat for 18 months to get that, but it just so happens I did Quiet American, and then I didn't work for a year, and then very quickly I played Austin Powers' father. I've got a wonderful mad comedy called The Actors that I did in Ireland, but they're things that I find interesting. You see, it's
not about the money anymore.
It's not about the money. No. Oh no, it's not. No. No. Some of the pictures I do, you know, they haven't got any money, and it's just the joy of doing it and getting it right, or trying to get it right, because you know it. Also, I think if you give up, you die. You know, what am I going to do? Watch EastEnders? I live EastEnders. I lived EastEnders for 30 years, you know? I can't watch a TV show every night.
No, you got to do. I think you're quite right about going on and doing it. And
yeah,
and also too. I mean, did you get as angry as I do about the ageist thing, about the sense that
I get very ticked off about that. Yeah. I was never ageist myself. I never was. I never treated old people with condescension ever. And you last about 2 seconds trying it on me. I tell you, you know, when it got... No, I don't know what it is, but I don't know what I look like, but I had a chauffeur the other day, and he was helping me out of the car. Like I was a little old lady. I said, get out of it.
Now, what's it all added up to? I mean, that famous line from your early film, I mean, what's it all about, Alfie? I mean, what's it all been about, do you think?
It's all about being happy and spreading the happiness that you have first amongst your family and your friends. I'm a very family-oriented person, which is probably unusual. in this day and age, but like you, the family comes first. I adore my home. People say to me, where do you go for your holidays? I say, home. That's where I go for my holidays. I love to be home. Yes. You know, I'm here from the weekend. I'm in Austin. I came from Austin in New York on the Concorde to do this show. In the morning, I go back to Austin. I work on Monday morning. Tomorrow morning, I'll get up early just so that on the way to the airport, I can spend an hour in my house in the country. I just walk around it, get out, and go on the plane. And go.
Have you ever had the urge to go back on stage, which is where you started?
No.
You haven't?
Never, no. I always regard, I had a terrible time on stage. It was a terrible thing for me, very rough. I was a very shy person, and to go on stage for me was torture anyway. And I always regarded the stage as a woman who always treated me badly, no matter how well I treated her. Movies is a woman who always treats me superbly, no matter how badly I treat her. So she's the one I love.
And finally, I came across a line which I just wanted you to sort of explain to me. You said that if you did have one philosophy of life, it was use the difficulty.
Yes, use the difficulty.
What does that mean?
Well, yeah, I got it from, I was rehearsing a play when I was a very young actor, and I had to come in this scene. It was a stage play. I'm behind the flats, waiting to open the door. There was an improvised scene between a husband and wife going on inside. And then they got carried away, and they started throwing things. And he threw a chair, and it lodged in the doorway. And I went to open the door, and I just got my head round, and I said, "I'm sorry, sir, I can't get in." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "There's a chair there." He said to me, "Use the difficulty." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, if it's a comedy, fall over it. If it's a drama, pick it up and smash it." He said, "Use the difficulty." Now, I took that into my own life. You ask my children. They say, directly, anything bad happens, they go, "We've got to use the difficulty. How can we work? What can we get out of this? You know? Use the difficulty." And so there's never anything so bad that you cannot use that difficulty. If you can use it 0.25% to your advantage, you're ahead. You didn't let it get you down. You know? That's my philosophy. Use the difficulty. Also, the added philosophy is avoid them if you can. At all costs.
I've enjoyed talking to you. I waited to do this one-man show for a while, and I'm glad that we finally got around to it. I think the film, The Quiet American, is a very grown-up movie. I think it's your best work. So. But in the meantime, Sir Michael Caine, thank you very much indeed. Sir Michael Caine, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So that's the end of our present series. We'll be back at Christmas time with a show to celebrate the festive season, and the new series begins in the new year. Thank you for watching, and from all of us here, a very good night. Good night.